the right hand to a degree needs to push away from your body. Right? So it's almost this sensation here, which if I tilt down into my front bend, we can see provides width. And the majority of amateur golfers tend to pull that away. Okay, so let's talk about the top of swing position. I'm going to talk specifically about what some players would refer to as like the waiter holding a tray table position here, right? Yep. With the back of the right wrist, we can see it is hinge back and the palm is facing more up towards the sky. Right. Now, me just standing here and doing that doesn't really relate to anything, but if I actually put a golf club in my hands, we can see within reason, that's what you'd see with a pro. Right. Now, one of the many faults that we do see with players is they will set up, and this right hand, because of the way that they position on the grip, they might have it in such an orientation where the handle might be a little bit too far back, and the right wrist will be almost bowed like this, right? And what that means is that throughout the swing, it's just incredibly challenging to A, load and creating leverage on the golf club, and then B, look how much of that range of motion I have to move that into to even get it close. And this player would really struggle with the whole breaking down of the arms, looking like T-Rex at the top, and then coming in, and then trying to coordinate any sort of functional movement would be so challenging. Right. So first port of call would be make a little adjustment to the grip, but I want you to talk specifically, let's say after we've got this slight little extension or cupping in the back of the right wrist through placing the hand on the golf club, the importance of this position at the top here and how that relates to creating leverage on the golf club and allowing the golf club to come in a well-sequenced and proficient manner.
Absolutely. So if you just get back into the address position there, I think a lot of people who are sick of seeing that golf ball go to the right as right-handed golfers, they might end up trying to shut that club face down too.
Yeah, massive.
I mean, obviously that's going to help the ball go left. We know that.
Yeah.
But you can see just how badly that's affecting your wrist structure there at the bottom of your swing. Yeah. Now, what a lot of people need to wrap their minds around is that in order to get the ball to start to the right and draw left, the face does need to be a little bit open at the bottom to their target line.
Yeah.
So starting with that club face a degree or a degree and a half open is not a bad thing, and we see a lot of drawers of the golf ball doing that. Now, just moving into that position, we can see a little bit more extension, a little bit more cup there, and it's going to make it easier for us to load that backswing. Exactly, just like that. Now, one of my favorite drills to start to encourage that is just like an open palm trail hand drill. So all you're going to do is you're going to place that trail palm directly up against the side of the grip, so you're going to be holding it with your lead hand for the most part, but that palm's going to go right up against the side of that grip, and we can see immediately it would feel bizarre to put your hand in some sort of position like that. So it's going to get us in a much more neutral address position, and then in the takeaway there, it's almost like you're trying to wave at the down the line camera, and that gets you into that nice position where you're going to be loaded at the top.
Mate, I really, really like that for a couple of reasons. Number one, drills that make it challenging for the player to get it wrong while they're doing them themselves, from a coach's perspective, from your and mine, we like those. Right? Yes. The main reason being is that if I'm a player and let's say it's exaggerated like this and I take my hand off, well, that just feels incredibly awkward because I can't use my fingers to pull it. Right. Naturally, what happens when I do this and I go, well, I can't take the golf club away when I do this, so it's going to make me want to naturally get a little bit of shaft lean here, which is important to get that ball first, ground second contact, compression, get the divot after, as we see.
Absolutely.
So when I push that palm, the right hand for the right-hander, so I take my grip and I actually just take my fingers off the club, we can see that it's kind of up the lifeline of the hand there. And then that puts me in a position that even if as I naturally do so, I can feel that it makes me want to shift it slightly to the left there.
And you could probably feel your pressure wants to go this way. You're putting some nice tension on that club shaft, like you're really going to pinch that golf ball. And that's obviously a nice way to work on impact as well. It's just a nice little secondary piece.
Yeah.
But now as you start moving that club away into the takeaway and trying to feel like, hey, we're waving at the camera versus so many people who would be waving at themselves and opening up that club face, that can tell you right there that that's going to be a tough position to play golf from as opposed to that. Now, the second thing I love is if you try to push this grip away with your right hand, it creates a beautiful amount of width from the hands to the body there. So many players get really scrunched up right there, and they just collapse, and then they have to throw it out later in the downswing.
Yeah, and this circulates back to a very important discussion that I would say is somewhat a little bit too complex for the majority of amateur golfers to consider when they're working on their golf game. But from a professional standpoint, we know it's very important, is your pressure points throughout the golf swing.
Right.
And one of those being in an attempt to create width in the golf swing.
Yep.
The right hand, to a degree, needs to push away from your body.
Right.
So it's almost this sensation here, which if I tilt down into my front bend, we can see provides width. And the majority of amateur golfers tend to pull that away.
Yes.
So as we do that, and I get that pulling motion, well, straight away we can see that this right wrist tends to get into this position as we were talking about before.
Right.
That golf club gets to a point where the lead wrist is cupped and the arms are broken down. Very different from this drill with the open palm. Of placing it up against that lead thumb, it's hard to get this wrong. We naturally start to feel like we create some leverage and some hinge in the wrist to position the golf club back to a point now where if I don't push against that, well, it feels like the lead hand is taking all the load here.
Right, you could probably feel that right through there. It probably doesn't feel good. And as soon as you put that right hand on there for some
Bit of stability, yeah.
for some stability and to, support that golf club, that takes a lot of pressure off here. Now the other thing we always see is folks really try to keep that lead arm locked out straight.
Mm.
And you see that at address, their lead arm looks like it's almost bent inward towards their body.
Yeah.
And you look at a lot of good pros and they're really relaxed.
Like that.
They're really relaxed and they don't try to keep that lead arm straight. What they're actually doing is they're pushing away with that trail palm.
Yeah.
And that push away with that trail palm naturally keeps that lead arm a little straighter, but it's not inducing that intention that we see so many people have at their address position where their arms are just rigid. Yeah. So that's another added benefit of pushing away here, creating that width, and then naturally, if I can sustain that width, it's going to encourage me to turn versus just using those arms to pull that club away like you were talking about.
Correct. The sequence of the golf swing between the body, the arms, and the club, we would like to see as a general rule of thumb, we are creating a big body turn, meaning by our checkpoint here, our chest is facing back towards the camera. You see my hands are in front. If I was to stand up straight and unhinge, well, guess what that is? It's really just the setup position, isn't it?
Right.
So what's happened throughout the swing is, to a degree, as I have pivoted and rotated my body back, this has just stayed constant. And for a lot of players, that feeling of pushing is what they need because they are so used to doing the opposite, which is here, standing up, and you can see all of a sudden, we're back to square one, we've got no structural width.
Right.
So that
And
palm open, so important.
You could tell from that position they're going to have to elongate the arms in the downswing, which is inevitably going to cause them to stand way up to create some space for that new elongation of the arms. Otherwise, they're going to hit the ground somewhere back in here. So, it's got a lot of great benefits. And also, the club face stays beautifully square when we keep that palm pointing back towards the camera. If we get that palm pointed towards the golfer, that club face is wide open, and all of a sudden they're going to be scooping at it at the bottom.
Yeah.
So this drill really does knock a lot of dominoes over, and that's why I'm a big fan of it.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to set up, open this palm up a little bit. I'm just going to map this feeling out by doing it nice and slow. We can see some great width here. Good arm structure. That lead wrist is now in a flat position. The trail wrist is certainly bent back. And now as I do that once more, and I'm going to go ahead and hit it after I do this. If you're a high-level golfer, you can actually hit shots doing this, which is quite challenging.
Right.
But just getting that feeling and then being aware of that trail wrist setting back into that position through that open palm drill. Let's clip one down there. Really good, and I just felt that.
Nice.
From there, I had so much leverage and ability to squeeze that ball off the club face and then get that low point forward and get that